Hi, Power Platformers. In today's video, we're going to take a look at how we can do co-authoring in PowerApps. Now, co-authoring allows us to have multiple developers working simultaneously on the same app. Previously, there was no way of doing that. Each developer uh, has to build an app by themselves. But now we have a feature that allows us to do co-authoring in Power Apps, and that is using GitHub integration. Now, GitHub integrations, what it will do is it will allow multiple users to develop an app, so that your development will speed up, and you can also manage the history of the changes that are made by multiple developers, and at the same time you can manage that project in the repo easily as well. So without further ado, let's go and do an end-to-end demo of how we can do GitHub integration in Power Apps. We're gonna start with an app. So this is just a normal app, and our goal is to enable co-authoring on this app so that multiple users can update this app. So to start off, first off, what we need is we need to enable the GitHub integration feature, which you can find under experimental since it's still in experimental phase. But before we do that, what we are so we can enable this now. Now, before we integrate, we need to create a repo in our GitHub. So we'll jump to GitHub. And so this is our GitHub environment. And what we will do is we will create a new repo. So this repo is going to host our app. So let's create a new repo. Let's call it tracking repo. Yep, everything else looks good. Let's create this repository now. Now we have a repo. Let's just create a README file so that so that GitHub can also set up a new branch for us, which will be the main branch. And let's just commit changes. All right, so now we have a repo and we have a main branch. Next thing, what we need to do is we need to invite people who we want to co-author in this app. So from security, let's add a new user here. So in order to add user, sorry, need to go to settings, collaborators, and here you can add people. So I will invite a user here who I will be using in this demo for co-authoring. Right, yep, add him to the repo. Now that I have added that user to the repo, it will send an invite request to the user. Once he accepts it, then he will be able to access this repo. All right. Okay. So before we jump to that user, let's set up and integrate our app with this repo first. So in order to integrate it, what we need to do is, well, first off, if you go to code, you need to get the URL for the rep. So let's just copy it from here, and we'll say connect. Put in the URL here. Next thing is we're going to use the main branch for now, and we're going to give it a directory name. If the directory does not exist, which it doesn't in our scenario, it will create a new directory for it. Now, before we apply that, there's one more thing that we need in order to integrate it, and that's the personal token. So if I go to settings, and at the end, you'll see developer settings. And in here, you can create a personal access token. So that's what we are going to do now. We're going to generate a new token. I'm just going to use classic for now because it's easier. So I will call it QTracker app token. And I'm going to set some scope for this so that I can easily access the repo. I think that's it for now. And I'll generate the token. Now I need this token, so make sure you copy it before you refresh this page because otherwise you won't be able to access it. So I will copy that code and I'll put it somewhere else just in case. And then I'll click apply here. Now I'll need to provide my user ID, which is this, and the personal access token which we just created. Right? Let's just sign in. As we mentioned, the directory doesn't exist, so it will create one. That's what we want. So let's create this directory, and now what it will do is it will integrate our app into GitHub. So if I come here now, you will see there is a new icon available, which is for the commits. All right, so let's make a change and let's commit and see what happens. So let's see. Maybe what I'll do is I'll change the color of this. Right, let's change it to something else. Yes, that looks good. And now I will make a commit. All right, now let's see. Now if I go to my repo here, let's get out of here. If I go to my repo, and if I look into the commits, now first off, there's this directory which has been created. And if I look at my commits history, you can see there are 3 commits that has been created now. So that's the first one for README, the second one when we created the directory and added in the app, and the last one is when I change the color. Now, every time when I make any change, let's say change it again to something else and make a commit, it will create a new commit. So you can see the commit history as well. You can also go into the commit and check out the code as well for that particular commit. But what we want to do now is we are going to set up our new user to co-author this app. So uh, we have already invited the user in the repo. One more thing that we need to do is, well, we need to enable the user to co-own this app as well. So this is our app. And if I go to share, here I'll need to invite to add this user for ownership as well so that the user can access this app. Right, I'll select this user, I'll make him the co-owner, and then I'll share it. All right, now our new user is all set. So let's bring our new user here as well. So this is my new user, and as you can see, the user has got an invite, and I'm gonna accept this invite. Now, once I accept it, I will be able to access this repo. All right, and the same thing happens for this user as well. The user need to create a token, personal access token, in order to access the app. So we will quickly create this token here. Generate new token and give it the same name. App. Same scope should work for this user as well. All right, now we can access this app. So if I go to apps here, I can see this app now. And if I click on edit, all goes well. It should ask me for the username and password. There you go. So I will provide the username and we will put in the token that we just generated. So now we are signing it in. So now this user will also be able to access and make edits to this app. So let's see what we want to change here. Again, we need to also provide access to, we need to make sure that user has access to the data as well. But what we need to do now is let's make a change. So I don't want to see priority here. I want to see the person who created this ticket. So I will put his name here. All right. Everything else looks good to me. So I'll just leave it as is and I'll make a commit. Now, now what happened is another user has made a change to the app. Now let's go back to our previous user and see if he can see that change. Right. So if I click on here, so that's again my previous user, and they are now trying to edit the app. In the meantime, what we can look at is the history of the commits. If I refresh it now, you can see that now there's another commit from a different user that has came into the repo as well, and you can see the history of the commits. I have to provide the same username and password. All right, now you can see that the app is loaded and we can see the change that was made by the other user as well. Now let's try to see if the other changes are also visible, if the changes made by this user is also visible to other user. Let's make a copy of that. And let's say I still want to see the priority of it. Right, let's make a commit here. And now if I go back to my previous user, now what we need to do is we need to sync the changes, and the same button can be used for the sync as well. So if I do this, press this button, then it should be able to fetch the latest changes from the repo. As you can see here, now we can see the latest changes made by the other user. And that's all for today, guys. Thanks for watching, and feel free to check out some of the other content on Power Platform in this channel. And hope to see you again. Cheers.